Okay, this video is going to be about NodeJS, a JavaScript runtime. It's basically an alternative way to run JavaScript than we've learned so far. So far, to run the JavaScript, we've been using the browser. You create an HTML document. In that document, you have a script tag, and inside of that script tag is where you write your JavaScript. NodeJS allows you to just run JavaScript directly. It's designed to run on the server. So generally, the web browser makes a request to a web server to get the web page. The web page comes down, which is basically just the HTML file's text. The browser renders all the HTML, and when it sees the script tag, it uses its JavaScript engine to execute that code. The same engine that runs in Chrome to execute JavaScript, the Chrome browser, is the same JavaScript engine that's running code in Node. Okay, it's called the V8 engine. So you can go to nodejs.org and install it on your local machine. I recommend that. That way you can play with it on your own without having to be connected to the internet or connect to the CS server. But you don't have to. You can connect to the CS server. So we'll do that. Oops. Alright. So once you have Node installed, you'll open up a terminal and you can type node --version. Okay. That will tell you the version of Node that you're running. Alright. If you type Node just by itself, you're going to enter the REPL, which stands for Read, Evaluate, Print Loop, which allows you to basically just type in JavaScript and it'll execute it. Console.log hello REPL. Read, evaluate, print loop. Okay, so as soon as I hit enter, it executes the JavaScript that I type in. So I can type in a function, declare a function here, we'll say add2 is the name of it. Have a variable x. Inside the curly braces, I'm going to console.log x plus 2. So whatever I type into this function, whatever arguments I give it, the one argument, x, it's going to add 2 to that, and then print that to the console. Notice when I press enter, it says undefined, because that function doesn't print out anything when you define it. It only prints out the console.log when you execute it. So add 2, and then we'll say the number 5. So we're adding 2 to the number 5, and this should print out 7. Let's add 2 to 500. 502. Okay, so that's really basic. So you can test out little bits of JavaScript from the REPL. Alright, and then to quit, you can hit Control-C twice, or you can type .exit. Alright, most of the time the REPL is just for testing out things real quick. What we're going to be using Node for mostly is we're going to create a JavaScript file that has JavaScript code in it, and you run that file with Node. Okay, so you would run Node and then file.js, and that would execute the JavaScript inside of file.js. So let's try that. Let's make a Node script here. We'll call it Node app.js. We're opening it up in Pico. And we'll just do a little console.log hello Node.js. Okay, look it over, make sure there's no typos. Control O, save. Control X. Alright, ls-l. We've got Node app right there. We just created. Let me remove that other one. ls-l. Okay, Node app. This is what we just created. We can look inside, see what's there. Node app. We'll use the cat command. Okay, it's just our console.log statement. Okay, to run this, we use the command node. And then the first argument you give it is the name of your file that you want to run. So this is nodeapp.js. So when we run that, it executes all the code inside of nodeapp.js. So let's add a couple more things. Let's make the function add we're going to have x and y. So this function is going to take two arguments. You separate the arguments by commas. So whatever arguments I provide the function when I call it, when the function runs, the data is going to be stored in the x variable for the first argument and the y variable for the second argument. Okay. So we do var sum. We're creating a variable sum. The name of the variable is sum, and the value is going to be whatever is stored in x plus whatever is stored in y, and that will be stored into sum. And then we do a console.log the sum of x and y is sum. Okay, so this is going to print out all of this. Whatever's inside, whatever expression is inside the console.log statement, that gets evaluated first. So this will all be evaluated into one piece of data. So we have a string, the sum of, with a space after it, and then we're going to add x. In JavaScript, when you add a number value to a string, it adds the number value as a string. So it no longer is a number. The end result here is just going to be a string, the sum of, and then whatever numeric value was stored in x is going to be represented as a string. Then we add to that another string, and we add the value y, which is going to be a number. JavaScript is adding that to a string, so it's going to print that out as a string. And then we add the string is, and then add the number sum. Okay, so if we execute this, to execute the function, you write the name of the function, left and right parentheses, and then hand in any arguments. So we can say 2 plus, we want to add 2 and 9. Okay, our arguments are separated by commas in JavaScript. Okay, so when we call add, and we've passed in the number 2 and the number 9, JavaScript looks up and says, okay, do I have a function named add? It looks through all the functions you may have defined. It finds add. It's like, yes, I do have one. Okay, they gave me the argument 2, so we're going to store that in this variable. So x now equals 2, and then they gave me the argument 9, and we're going to store that in this variable. So as it comes through, it just runs each line one at a time in the function. So this first line says, okay, create a variable called sum and take the value of x and add it to the value of 9 and store that whole thing in sum. Then the next line logs this message. Okay, and I already described what was happening there. Alright, so let's Control O, save, Control X, and we can run node Node app.js. So the sum of 2 and 9 is 11. Okay, so you can have any number of functions in there, you can define variables, all sorts of stuff in there. That's basically a very, very simple Node app. So we're going to be using Node to solve a lot of math-based problems. The one thing about the HTML that's really nice, it's a little more complicated to get started, but every computer pretty much has a browser. So you don't have to connect to the internet, you don't have to do anything to use the JavaScript, you don't have to download anything special. And the other aspect that's nice is HTML has a visual component to it. So you get to see things change, you get to change colors of things. So using JavaScript in the browser is kind of nice because you actually get the satisfying feeling of seeing something change. So a lot of the math-based algorithms and stuff, they're very interesting, but there's not a whole lot of visual elements to it. So that's why we show you both. It's nice to deal with both. Okay, so the main thing you're going to need to know, at least for the homework, is the way to run a command or run a JavaScript program in Node is you use the command node and then myfile.js, whatever that file is, and you press enter. Alright, so we'll do more with this later.